In one of my latest videos, we talked about the drop voicings, what those are, and in this video I want to talk about another way to create voicings for us jazz guitar players, namely cluster voicings. So what are cluster voicings and how can we use them and what do they sound like? Let's get started. So imagine if you are a piano player and you want to play some kind of D Dorian chord. What you could do is just play a D note, bass note, and then just put your arm or your hand on a bunch of white keys. That would be a cluster chord, cluster voicing. So playing notes that are right next to each other from the scale. Obviously, it's going to be really hard to do that on the guitars, but there are ways we can do it. First off, we need to create smaller voicings, like 3-note voicings. So if we take D Dorian, for example, so I want to create a voicing. Let's just start with the note D, go up the scale, E, F. Now this is a cluster voicing. Unfortunately, it's really hard to grab and I don't recommend playing it. We're not going to play it, I'm just showing you. Some of you might be able to grab this, but I still don't recommend playing those kinds of chords. So what we do is invert it. So what is the inversion? So instead of playing D, E, F, we go E, F, D. Now we have a much better, still a little bit of a stretch, but this is much more user-friendly for us guitar players. So this is a movable chord. I'm moving it according to the scale D Dorian. So let's practice that. Let's find the lowest one we can grab on the same set of strings, the top three strings. Now this is also a good opportunity to practice your ear training, because what is this? It's a second and a sixth. So from E to F is a second, and from F to D is a sixth. So what would that sound like from B, G? So that's a good thing to practice because we need to get used to these sounds, right? So then just move this up to scale, like a harmonized scale. You probably played some of these, but maybe you haven't thought about that it's actually, you know, the notes from the scale. You can play them like at the same time. And again, the scale here is D Dorian, right? Or you could play them like broken. Or it could be the top note first and then the other notes, like now it sounds like a melody on top, right? So this is perfect for if you have a melody in D Dorian and you want to play kind of chords under the melody. And what is the tune in D Dorian? Well, Little Sunflower. So I can put those chords under the melody. Then it goes to E flat Lydian. So I could do this same thing. So I'm just playing the melody and then shifting the voicings according to the new mode. So I wouldn't, probably not, I'm a little bit overdoing it when you're playing a, like on every note. You don't have to do that. You can just find like the important notes kind of like. That's probably more what I would do if I was actually playing this tune. So why is this good for modal playing? Because this voicing doesn't give you a feeling of where's the root in this voicing, you know? It could be anything, it could be. But if I were to play regular 4-part chords like this one, we all hear the root, right? Like it's doom. Then I play the next one. Now it's like, oh, a new chord. I mean, I can do that. I can play these drop 2 voicings too, right? Like if I want to, it's okay. Like. But it can be cool. I guess Bill Evans could kind of do that, but these cluster voicings give you a much more open and unspecified. The harmony is not as so I'm not sure how to put it. It's just like these kind of chords lends itself really well for modal playing. You might have seen like Lagerlund, if there's an F major, he can go like do that kind of stuff. I see him do that quite a lot. So now you're wondering what's the next inversion? Well, let's find out. We had the first one was a root position. Then we have like that, right? Or we can play it down here. This is also great. Unfortunately, they're not as easy to grab. You have to kind of do that. So let's try that. Starting with this, the lowest I can grab. Go up, D Dorian. So you want to take the opportunity to work on these with every mode, not just Dorian, and also every scale. I mean every key. So let's say I want to do the same scale for, let's say, Lydian. I love that. Some really nice sounds. Again, so it's like I'm playing the scale. So if I'm playing Little Sunflower, yeah, it didn't work. I mean it works, but I preferred the other one. Okay, so what are some other ways we can play cluster voicings? Well, you can actually play 4-note voicings too if you do like this. So D, E, F, G. Or here. So notice it's the same shape we had before. 1 note added. A little bit harder to grab, but worth the effort. Let's go up the D Dorian scale with this one. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but I like this a lot. That's a nice one. they're not very super easy to grab, but it's sometimes I play these shapes. Okay, so remember I said you can think of this as a second and then a sixth. So I guess we could change the top note to a different interval, or the top interval to another interval. I'm not sure if it's still considered is it technically a cluster voicing? Not sure, but we don't have to really worry about that right now. We're just looking for new sounds, right? So if, let's say I do a second, and the fifth, I get this. Also a great sound. So different ways you can think of this chord. It could be considered the guide tones of D minor, with an extension added under it. Or you can think of that as this chord, F major 7 drop 2. Remember my drop 2 video? And I've talked about before that there's a technique where you can get rid of one of the voices, like in this case the bass. I drop the bass, and then you get the same thing. So if I have all the inversions of F major 7, F major 7 works as a D minor, right? It's D minor 9. So those are the inversions of drop 2 F major 7. And I don't play the bass. I omit the bass. Get this kind of modern sound that I talked about in my Create Modern Lines video. But this of course could also be moved in the scale. So let's do that. Of course, this one and the first one we did can be used in combination. What if I change it to a fourth? The top interval. You get that. So that's actually a fourth voicing, right? The fourth voicing. It's the inversion of this, I guess. Am I saying this right? Yeah. So that's a fourth voicing, stack of fourths, and the inversion. So you get that chordal harmony. So that's a little bit of a different topic, chordal harmony or fourth voicings. I've also talked about that in the past. So finally, let's change it to a third. Changing the top interval to a third. So how should I think about this? Well, it's this, right? I get this minor add 9 sound. 11s, right? It's like add 9. Triad with a 9. Also so very nice. Is it a cluster voicing? Not sure, I guess some theory books would call it something else, I don't know. So those were a few cluster voicings. I hope that helps, and try it on Little Sunflower. But this is a great opportunity for those of you who need to kind of practice going through all the modes and all the 12 keys and stuff like that. So record a pedal, pick a mode a day, and then just go through these up and down the neck, right? Really good. But warm up first, because these can kind of, you always want to be careful with the stretching, okay? So yeah, I hope you like that, and I shall see you next time.